professional services, of which consulting is included, has the highest percentage of remote workers. 25% of all people in professional services are remote workers. If you include hybrid workers, meaning those that work both from home and maybe a day or two in the office every week, it's 47%, almost 50%. Now, that number is both larger and even mid-sized firms. If you focus more on the small size, the boutiques, or even, of course, the independent consultants, right, or very small firms, that number would be significantly higher. In this video, I'm gonna share with you the key considerations when it comes to hiring, managing, and scaling your consulting business with a remote team. The first thing we should talk about here is hiring. One of the biggest mistakes that I see consulting founders making when it comes to hiring is that they are not specific enough in terms of who they are looking for and what they actually need help with. Do yourself a favor and get really clear on defining what do you need help with. A great way to do this is to apply what is called the 10, 100, 1000. I don't actually know where this first was developed, but I know that my friend Perry Marshall introduced me to this concept many years ago. And essentially what it means is you take an inventory of all the activities, the tasks, really where you are spending your time, and you put them into columns between $10 an hour, $100 an hour, and $1,000 per hour value. That doesn't mean that you are charging on an hourly basis. It's simply a way of thinking about what is the value of each activity. So let's say that you're doing something right now that you could get somebody else to do for you for $20 an hour. Well, that would go into the $10 an hour, bucket. Maybe you're doing something right now that is an average of $100 or $200 an hour per value, right? Well, if you can get somebody to hire that because your value is higher, meaning that really what you should be doing is spending your time in the $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 per hour equivalent value tasks. So if you're spending your time right now doing research online, or you are playing with with photos on your website, or your logo, or you're formatting PowerPoint or presentation, slides in a document, well, that's all stuff that is lower value. It doesn't mean that it's not important, but what it means is it's not the best use of your time, most likely. So take an inventory of those things, and that will help you to identify where you actually need help, right? The next part to think about here is that you don't need to hire necessarily full-time people for all these roles. A lot of consulting founders are kind of scared or a bit paralyzed or hesitate when they think about hiring because they feel like it's a massive commitment, but it doesn't actually need to be a huge commitment. You can start off with a VA, a virtual assistant, that can take a lot of these lower value tasks where you're spending your time right off of your plate to then free you up to spend more time on the things that create more value inside of your business, like having conversations with buyers, writing articles, let's say, or giving talks, right? Negotiating a big deal, right? These all create massive value. And so a VA right away can take a lot of that off of your plate. If you're not ready to hire a full-time person, you can hire a freelancer or a contractor as well. These are part-time people. They'll come in to help you with specific things. They might be working with you even on an ongoing basis, but you're not making a big full-time commitment. And so the next step above that, right, would be a full-time employee or a full-time person that you bring on, but you don't need to do that right away, right? You can build up to that step by step. And as we talk about here, the next things that are really important, you'll be able to make better decisions. So when it comes to hiring, I'll talk more about this in terms of management and culture in a moment here, but when it comes to hiring, hire for attitude and hire for values. Don't just hire for a skill set. Because if you have somebody who is good at what they're doing, but they're a pain in the neck to work with, right? And you really don't enjoy them, and you're butting heads a lot, or maybe their way of communicating is not what you desire or not what you want to see. They could, again, be good at what they do, but if they're not a pleasure to work with, then they're likely to create a lot more headaches for you. So I'm a big believer in the importance of looking at attitude, right? Is somebody hungry? Are they good at communication? Do they have shared values, right? Do they value the same kinds of things that you do? It doesn't mean that they have to have all the same beliefs, but they should have shared values. That's going to make working with them not only more enjoyable, but also when you have somebody that has a good attitude, they can typically learn things. So you can teach them things, you can train them. And now when they have the right attitude and they have the right kind of shared values, that's somebody that you're probably going to want to continue working with, longer term. And so that now becomes an asset and a real source of value for you and for your business, because as a business owner, what you want to work towards is shifting the business to rely less on you over time. Therefore, the business becomes more valuable, and therefore you actually operate as a business owner and have a business, you don't just have a job. Now, the next thing is to look at communication, right? When you're managing, when you're working with a remote team, communication is even more important when you are together in a physical office space. When you're in a physical office space, right, you're together, it's much easier to interact, to have conversations, to just go for lunch, to have a cup of coffee, or go to the quote unquote water cooler, right? But when you are in a remote situation, you can't see the team members that you are working with unless you're always on Zoom or Teams or some kind of video conferencing all day long, and nobody wants to do that. So communications is key. And one of the most important parts of communications with a remote team, and especially for you as a founder, as a business owner, is to set expectations right up front. If there are certain things that really bother you, or certain things that are really important to you, don't be shy in sharing those things with the people that you hire. Come out very quickly, like put it out there right up front. Because when you set those expectations, not only will you tend to see that the person that you are hiring or working with, that they actually will live up to those expectations because they know what is important to you, but it's also they will appreciate that. It's better for them because they don't have to wonder in the back of their mind, should I do this or should I do that, right? You are kind of laying the path and you're setting those expectations. And it can go both ways, right? So have a conversation with the people that you hire very early on, right away, about what are the expectations that both of you should have in order for this to work out really well. The other thing when it comes to communications that is really important is to set a daily rhythm. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to talk with every single team member, depending on the size of your team, every single day. But especially early on, it is important to talk to a new team member every day. Check in. It doesn't have to be a long conversation, but just letting them know that you care, letting them know that you are there for them, reviewing what the goal and the plan is for the day, reviewing what maybe didn't work as well the previous day, is really critical to making sure that you are making progress, that things are moving forward according to plan, that you are on the right track or kind of going down the right path and the right course. And it gives you an opportunity to make any adjustments with that person quickly, rather than saying, hey, here's what I'd like you to do, go off and get it done. And then you talk to them a week later and you realize that they haven't lived up to your expectations, or that the project went completely in the wrong direction. If you're having daily touch points, the other thing that's important when we talk about communications, and especially with a remote team, is to set up a more regular cadence of meetings or of deeper conversations. And so what we do is we have an annual team meeting, we have quarterly team meetings, and then we also have a weekly team meeting. Now, this will be in addition to a one-to-one meeting that you'll have with your key kind of employees, or kind of what people call direct reports, right? So depending on the size of your company, you might have 3, 4, 5 different people that are your direct reports. You should have a meeting with each of those people at least once a week, or I shouldn't say at least, I would say once a week is sufficient. But you have a once a week meeting with each of those people. But in addition to that, you should have a team meeting every single week where you are reviewing information, you're giving updates about what's going on so that everybody inside the company knows what is happening. And that's a great opportunity to bring the team together. So that's every single week. Next is every quarter. Every quarter, get the team together, ideally, physically in one location. If you're not able to do that, then it can happen virtually. But a quarterly meeting to review what the quarterly plans, the goals, the progress, the challenges. Doing that together on a quarterly basis is critical. And then, of course, that all really kicks off and starts with an annual plan. So your annual plan, depending if it's your first year in business, then you're not going to plan or look backwards, right? You'll plan going forwards. But if you've been in business for some time, then your annual plan is an opportunity to look at what worked and what didn't work in the previous year, and then what are the goals and the plans and what you want to accomplish in the coming year. And you take that annual plan and you then kind of chunk it down, break it down into a quarterly plan, and that's the plan that you then use each quarter, right, with the team. And your subsequent quarterly plan would get into Q2 and Q3 and so forth. So that kind of set of touch points of meetings is really important for managing a remote team. The next part of managing a remote team effectively is all about metrics, right? If you're not clear on what the goal is, and this, depending again on the size of your team, the number of goals or kind of smarts, as some people refer to them as, will vary. But you need to establish metrics for success. If your team members don't know what success looks like, how can they actually achieve it? How will they know if they're making progress towards them, if they're on the right track? And so establishing metrics for every part of the business that is critical to the growth of the business. And an important kind of distinction to note here is I'm not suggesting that you make a massive stack or a big list of everything that you can possibly track inside of your business. That likely is not going to be beneficial to you or to any of your team members. What I am suggesting is that you get clear together with your team on what metrics actually matter inside of your business. And then make sure that you track those metrics and review those metrics during your weekly team meeting, right? Every single week, so that you and each team member knows, are they going in the right direction, right? And if they're seeing great success and they're making real progress, what contributed to that? If for some reason they're not making progress, things are going in the wrong direction, then you can ask them really great questions to find out, well, why are we not making the progress? What happened? What held you back from reaching that goal? Why are you only at 20% when you should be at 40% done in this specific area? So metrics are incredibly important. If you'd like to learn more about what metrics you can use inside of your consulting business to grow it and really take it to the next level with a lot more confidence, head on over to consultingsuccess.com. We have plenty of resources to help you with metrics, as well as marketing, pricing strategies, growth, and all other aspects related to successfully and profitably growing your consulting business. Now, the next part that we should talk about when it comes to managing and working with a remote team is all about culture. And this can't be, underrated or undervalued. This is not something that you want to forget about or to neglect. Your people are ultimately what will help you to be successful. And so it's as a leader, it's very much worth your time and the investment of your time to ensure that you are putting in place the right culture for your team members to thrive, whether they are working with you in the same physical office or whether they are remote. And I think an important consideration here that has maybe changed, or how people view it has changed over the years, and that is personal and professional, right? The old school of thought is that you need to kind of, when you're at work, just focus on work, don't talk about stuff happening in your personal life, and there should be a real separation between personal and professional. I think those lines have blurred a lot. I was reading a book recently by Dan Pontefract about called Work-Life Bloom, and he brings in some great studies and conversations to make this point that now more than ever before, and especially in the world that we are in with this kind of hybrid, remote type of culture and structure, the lines are not clear between work and personal, right? They merge, right? They overlap significantly. And so I think we can all agree that if you are having issues in your personal life, maybe with your spouse or your kids or whatever it might be, that will impact and affect how you show up at work, right? That will probably drag you down, make it harder for you to be productive and effective. And the flip side is also true. If your personal life is great, if you're healthy, if you're happy, you're probably going to be doing or be able to do a better job at work. So for you as a leader that is looking to grow and manage a team, it's really important that you not only talk to your team members and show care to your team members about what they are doing in their work time, but also show them that you care about them as individuals, as people, right? Ask questions about what's happening in their personal lives. Are they working towards some goals on the health side? If they have a team member or it's not a team member, a family member, I should say, that maybe has had some health issues, right? Asking about that, showing you care about those kinds of things is typically very much appreciated by your team members. And this is, again, one of the kind of starting points or contributing factors to establishing and having a great culture that people want to be a part of. It shows them that you value them. It shows them that you care about them. Now, I've mentioned this before, but as part of the culture and for you to create the opportunity to actually have these kinds of conversations, having a weekly meeting with each of your direct reports is a really critical part of building that culture, getting the communications and making sure that things are moving forward, right? The real progress is happening. So if you don't have a weekly meeting with, one-to-one with each of your direct reports, that is something that I would highly recommend. And the next one here is applying 80-20 with your team members, meaning that when you hire somebody, what you're going to find is, you'll probably ask them to do a whole bunch of things. Ideally, you're very clear about what they should start with, but regardless, as each team member takes on work, you will start to find, and they will start to find, there are certain things that they enjoy doing, and there are certain things that they do not enjoy doing. There'll be certain things that they need to do, even though they don't necessarily enjoy them. But what you're going to see is that there will be things that each team member not only enjoys doing, but they're very good at doing them. And there'll be certain things that maybe they are not doing right now that they'd like to do and they see opportunity to do that could create significant value for the business. So for you as a leader and a manager of a remote team and looking to scale your business, what you should always be thinking about is having that conversation with each team member to identify, what do you really enjoy doing right now? What do you maybe want to do more of? Do you have any ideas of something that you're not doing right now that you would like to do? Is there anything that you're doing right now that you're finding is just, dragging you down, or it's kind of chopping away at your energy right? All that stuff. Because then what you can do with each team member is to look at, well, how do we get you doing more of the things that you enjoy doing? And how can we maybe shift away the things that you don't enjoy doing? And it doesn't mean that you can always take away everything they don't enjoy doing, but you should look for ways to make shifts. Because if somebody is in a role that they don't enjoy doing, if that's taking up too much of their time, where they're just not enjoying their time, you can almost be certain that they're going to look to make a change outside of your company at some point, because nobody wants to spend too much of their time doing things that they don't enjoy. So for you, the opportunity is to have those kind of conversations with them, figure out where they create the most value, what do they enjoy doing the most, and then together figure out how can they do more of that. All right, so the final part of this process is thinking about scaling with your remote team. And the first component of this is to continue what I just talked about, the 80-20. So when you have a team member who is very clear about, yeah, this is where I'm producing significant results, or this is where I can create the most value for the company. This is the stuff that I enjoy doing the most. And these other things are things that I really don't enjoy doing the most. The opportunity for you is then to look at the things that they do not enjoy doing, and together with that team member to figure out, are these things that we should just delete, right? Should we get rid of these things? Are they actually critical to the business? Do we have to do them now? Can we do them, in the future instead of doing them now? And if you can't kind of delete them or get rid of them, then the next thing that you want to look at is, well, how do we delegate them? And so a great opportunity for you as a leader is to say to your team member, well, okay, if you don't want to do those things, that's totally fine. I want you to focus on doing more of the things that you enjoy doing, but what I need your help with then now is to delegate. I need you to train somebody else that we will bring on. And remember, a lot of those things will typically be lower valued in terms of what you can pay somebody to do them. So you can now go off and probably find a contractor or a freelancer or a part-time or maybe even a full-time person or maybe somebody else on the team to take over those things that your current team member doesn't enjoy doing. And the current team member can be the one to train that person on how to take those over. So that's one thing that will allow you to scale, because what you're doing is you're then moving team members into areas where they create more value and more value and more value, kind of an ever-evolving, ongoing process, right? So that's one important thing. The second thing is to think of this idea of hiring up or hiring down. In some scenarios, you're going to want to do what I just mentioned, which is to find somebody, hire somebody, bring somebody on in whatever format, right? Freelance, contractor, VA, full-time, to take over lower value tasks that are still critical to the operation and success of the business, but they're not high value. But that is really important for you to make those investments, because the more time that you have of a higher value contributor, right? Somebody on your team that can create more value, if they're stuck doing things that are low value on the team, then they're not gonna be able to create the kind of potential outcomes. So your goal should be to find, how can I get my team members who can create more value in the position where they can actually create more of that value and not be bogged down and held back doing things that are low value, right? So that's one example where you would hire down, meaning hire somebody that is needing to get those things done or helping you get those things done, but they are not necessarily a high level hire, right, in terms of dollars. But the next then opportunity is, in some cases, you'll think about, I need to actually hire up. I need to hire somebody who has a significant skill set. An example of that might be that we're going to bring somebody on to actually start delivering with clients. Maybe you've been doing all the delivery as a consultant. Well, now you've got all of your documentation, or you can clearly see that you shouldn't be spending all of your time delivering, because it means you're not able to spend as much time as you'd like on building the business, on marketing, on creating thought leadership content. So in that case, you may need to actually go out and hire somebody at a pretty high level who has a certain level of skills or experience or expertise in order so that they can actually do that higher level work. But that would make sense, because let's just use the example that you're getting maybe paid $50,000 for a typical engagement. And right now you're the one doing all the work inside that engagement to deliver. But every engagement is worth on average $50,000. Well, if you can bring somebody on, and let's just say that, of course, there's more variables, but let's just say that you're going to pay that team member $10,000 or $15,000 to deliver that work. They're high level, right? Great compensation for them. Well, you're going to capture the margin of that. And of course, yes, you will make less money in your pocket initially from that one engagement, because you're paying somebody else who's high level to do that. But now you have all that time that you're not spending doing the delivery that the other person is, which means you can take that time and now you can go out and win more business. And so you win another project, another project, another project. And now you're making significantly more than you were before, and you're not having to be the one to do all of the delivery. So that's an example of hiring up. I also want to talk about A players, right? You've probably heard this term before, that an A player is worth, more than 2 or 3 B players, and it's worth more than 10 C players, or whatever that kind of saying is. And I really believe that it's true. My observation is that it is true. That hiring quality people, hiring people that have the right attitude, shared values, who are either very good at what they do already or have the ability to become very good is worth it. Don't try and save money by hiring a C player, thinking that that's going to somehow help you to grow. In almost all cases, it is worth to invest more to get somebody who either is an A player or has the potential to become an A player. Even if that means that it's taking a little bit more money out of your pocket right now, my experience has been that in almost all cases, you will get significantly better ROI on that investment, right? A significantly higher return on your investment because you have somebody that is capable of doing so much more than getting a C player that just causes all kinds of headaches and actually doesn't have the ability or doesn't have the desire to contribute and create the same kind of value as somebody that is an A player. The other thing that I'll mention on this is a bad fit. If you have somebody that clearly isn't delivering, if they're not meeting expectations even after you have set expectations with them, if it's clear that they do not have shared values, they don't have the right attitude, the worst thing that you can do is to keep that person on. Whether, again, it's a remote team member or an in-person team member, the worst thing that you can do is to keep that person on, right? Of course, have a conversation with them, see if you can work things out, but after you give them an opportunity to make adjustments and to show you that they can actually create and deliver at the level that you've both agreed to in terms of expectations, if they're still not doing that, then it's time to get rid of them. And I'll make a disclaimer, I'm not giving any specific financial or legal or employment advice here, but just simply to say that if you have somebody inside your company that is not pulling their weight, that is not showing up at that level, it becomes toxic, because that is a signal to others inside of your company that you are okay with that level of performance. And so if somebody's working really hard, they're giving it their all, and they see that somebody else is not doing that and they're still there, that now signals to that person that's working hard that maybe they don't need to work as hard as they are. So it creates the wrong dynamic for the culture. It's not good for anyone inside of your business, and it's really not good for you. So my experience and observation is the best thing is that if somebody doesn't work out, you need to get rid of them as quickly as possible, because there's somewhere else, some other company that they can become an A player at. But right now they're a C player, and you don't want C players on your team. I hope that you have found this video to be helpful. Again, we have many more resources on consultingsuccess.com to help you to grow your consulting business. But for now, check out the next video on our YouTube channel. We have lots of interviews and other videos to help you to learn the best practices and insights, opportunities, steps that you can take to grow your consulting business.